Hey, 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 Moreland Macro Munchers. So let me see if I can get this. Oh, there we go. We start to see the glare there. Okay. We are going to start down here. So, okay. My little girl's home. Emery's off the bus. So she said she's going to be a big girl and stay and watch her iPad while I teach you guys. And then I told the dogs not to bark and freak out, and they're already growling at each other. So, whatever. Okay, so up here, you guys can see that today's lesson is going to be about be better. Okay, so I'm going to start us down here at the bottom, which is our freshman status, okay? I don't know if you guys can read that super well, but we're going to talk about what it means to be a freshman player. And here's the deal. Let me grab a pen. I don't want anyone to get super upset if you tend to be a freshman player, because we all have to start somewhere, right? We all played on the freshman team when we started. We all had to go through that level first. So what does it mean to be a freshman player? You guys know that I'm knee deep in volleyball season right now, and so these are just some observations and some analogies that I can use to help you guys understand. So when you are a freshman player at any sport, or when you are a freshman in any particular skill that you are trying to be better at, there are some tendencies that we tend to fall to, right? And it's no different in nutrition. So when you are a freshman player, let me just turn that off. When you are a freshman player, you're clueless. You're new. You don't know about things, okay? So let's talk about when it comes to nutrition. When you are a freshman nutritionist, you don't have a whole lot of knowledge, okay? You don't know what your food is made out of. You don't know when you should or shouldn't eat. What is balance? You don't know what balance is. So you don't know how to balance your food with your workouts, or your food with events and things like that. Some days you eat, some days you don't. Some days you might skip breakfast, lunch, and have an okay dinner. Some days you're like, I had a protein bar today. And then other days, as a freshman, you don't eat. And then when you do eat, you eat big time, okay? You make up for the days that you don't eat, okay? Every holiday is an excuse to go ham. Every holiday gives you a reason to binge eat. We don't look at holidays for what they are and the purpose for the holidays. When you are a freshman with your food, we look at it as a reason to throw caution to the wind. You drink empty calories. So whether it's Starbucks or alcohol, we drink empty calories as freshmen. You don't think of food, or if you do think of food, the only things or thoughts that you have about food is guilt, or how good or bad it tastes, or how good or bad that food makes you feel. But as far as balance and whether it's good for you and going to make you healthier, we don't really have a whole lot of those thoughts. That's what it's like to be a freshman with your nutrition. The bottom line is, as a nutrition, you lack knowledge and mindfulness. When you are a freshman at the nutrition level, it means you are lacking knowledge and you are lacking the ability to think and be mindful about your food, okay? So I want you to think about you right now where you are. Most of my clients we might have a few of the freshman tendencies, but we are not complete freshmen. And that's okay. Maybe you are a complete freshman. But if you're a K-More Macro client, I would like to think that I've educated you at least enough, even if you're fresh in your journey, that you are starting to be mindful and aware of some of these things, okay? So that's being a freshman. And like most freshmen, we don't want to stay there, right? We want to make sure that we are able and capable of moving up the ranks in our position. Nobody wants to be a freshman athlete their whole life. So how do we get past being a freshman athlete and onto the JV team? So this is what a JV squad does when it comes to nutrition. And if we do all of these things correctly, this is 50% of winning with our food, okay? If we do these things right, we are 50% ahead of the game and we are winning. So keep that in mind as we go through and talk about these, okay? Number 1, calorie balance, calorie and energy balance. If you are aware of what balance is and you are striving for some balance, which means you are trying to eat protein with each meal, a decent amount of fat, and an okay amount of carbohydrates, then you are creating that calorie and consistency balance. If you are eating 3 meals and a few snacks, you have balance, okay? That is the first step in stepping up to a JV squad, a JV level, okay? Second, binge restrict patterns are being broken. I'm not saying they're completely out of the picture, but you're breaking them. You're being mindful of them and you're working towards not having them anymore, okay? We know that when we restrict any diet, any nutrition plan, anything that tells you to eliminate an entire food group is most likely going to end up in this, in a binge phase. That's just a simple truth, you guys. We've talked about this a bunch of other times, that anytime we take away from ourselves for a certain amount of time, we can only do that for so long before this happens, before we binge, okay? So your no binge restrict pattern, you're working on that. No YOLO. Y'all know what YOLO means, right? You only live once. Okay, we don't do this. If you are a JV player, these are things that we don't do. We do not YOLO, okay? You don't go ham on a weekend and just throw caution to the wind, because there are repercussions for that. Internally, tears us up inside, and then physically, we take steps back, okay? Drinking is done to a minimum. We are aware that alcohol is a toxin. We are aware that Starbucks puts 800 calories in some of their drinks if we aren't careful with what we order. We are very mindful of what we drink as far as calories go. Mindful eating. So you go into the day with the foresight that you want to make good choices and that you want to be healthy, okay? This is definitely, mindful eating. You're aware of it. When you go to a restaurant, you don't just order what you think is going to taste good. You order what you think is going to help you be healthy and feel healthier, okay? Food tendency awareness. You know what your downfalls are with food. You know what foods make you fail. And so you are mindful of those tendencies, you are aware of those tendencies, and you take steps to keep those foods that pull us back into bad behaviors out of the house, okay? You know what foods are going to do that. Let's see, and then you're also mindful of your water intake and your sleep. You realize how important sleep is and how important water is. Now here's the deal. This is all about being mindful and trying. This level, freshman level, zero awareness, zero effort, okay? JV, you're mindful, you know better, and you're trying, you're working at it, okay? This is the JV squad. And if we can do 50% of succeeding with food is being mindful and working on these things, you guys. That's what it is right there. That is everything, okay? The effort, okay? Now, let me just make sure you guys can see before I move on. Do we have any questions? Hey, Stacy. All right, let's see. Okay, you guys can see the board pretty good. Give me a thumbs up. If you can see the board, you can hear me well. It's making sense. If you guys have questions as I go along, please go ahead and post them underneath. Let me know what your questions are so that I can answer them, okay? And if someone has a question, I might even try and add you so that you can actually answer or ask your question while we're live, okay? So, Stacy, girl, you know you are an upperclassman. Come on now. All right, so let's talk about the varsity squad. I don't know about you guys, but I'm okay with being a freshman. I don't want to stay there. And JV's fun, not as much pressure, and a lot of development and a lot of learning. But let's be honest, we all want to be varsity squad players. Okay, so let's talk about what it takes to be a varsity squad. Now, be mindful of this. As in any sport, if you cannot do the basics well, you don't move on. I just had this conversation with my middle school volleyball players because they come at me and they're like, I want to jump serve. And I'm like, we need to learn to serve and control the bare minimum movements when we serve before we start adding all these variables and trying to approach and toss the ball and serve the ball over the net. It's the same thing with your food, you guys. You have to do the basics well before you can move on to the varsity team, okay? So, varsity squad, most of you are on the varsity squad because you are macro tracking. You know what your macros are. You know how to hit them. You want to hit them. I'm not saying you always do, but you are aware of what they are. You want to hit them, and you have them figured out, okay? You understand that micronutrients are just as important. Macro and micronutrients are important to you. You know what they are. You are mindful of them, and you try to hit them, okay? Food quality is important to you. Okay, now you are aware that a fat is not like a carbohydrate, is not like a protein. You know the difference. You know there's a distinction between them, and you know how to make them work for you in your situation, in your event, in your day, okay? Food quality. That means we're looking at the 80-20 model, 80% whole foods, 20% processed or the flex foods, the fun foods, the foods that everyone deems as naughty. Okay, 80-20 balance, that's what we're looking for. Consistency in food quality and consistency in hitting your macros. If you are not consistent in hitting your macros, but you know what they are, that means you have a good coach, but you're still on the JV squad. If you are not hitting your macros and you make poor choices with your food and don't eat enough fiber, and don't eat enough foods that are going to heal your inner systems, your gut, your GI tract, then you are still a JV squad player. Now you know what you need to do in order to become a varsity player. You know you've got to step up your game in this category, okay? Planned eating. If you are not planning your food, now here's the deal, you guys. Hear me very clearly on this. If you have a goal and you have not reached it, you should be planning your food, okay? If you have a goal and you have not reached it, you need to be planning your food. Because if you are not, you are setting yourself up for failure. We've talked about how to plan your food. You can use me as a resource to plan your food. You can use the Moreland Macro Munchers as a resource to plan your food. I see you guys do it all the time. Hey, I need this and that or the other thing. Or what do you guys eat that has no this, no that? Or what recipes can you share? And you guys share. You're really good at it, okay? Plan your eating. If not, you end up with 63 grams of protein, -4 grams of fat, and -65 carbs. Okay, that's not a good place to be. That does not put you on the varsity team. That puts you right down here on the JV squad. Okay, now, that's important. Okay, diligently working on behaviors. I am not saying that you have mastered those behaviors, but more often than not, you win with the behaviors that you know hold you back from feeling good internally, from looking the way that you want to look, from wearing the clothes that you want to wear, from doing the activities that you want to be doing, okay? You are diligently, you are mindful of them, you have created a plan, you are working towards them, your friends and family know what they are, what behaviors you need to change. That puts you on the varsity squad, okay? If you do this well, this is 50% of winning with your nutrition. And this is the other 40%, okay? Where you've focused, you've dialed in, and you know what you're working towards. This is the varsity squad. The rest of it, 10%, the higher level, the collegiate level, you don't even need. Most of us didn't play collegiate sports. Some of us did. That means that you did this, you were here, and you learned. And you did this really, really well. And then you moved into this and you absolutely crushed this. So then you moved into this level. Most of us don't need to be at this level. This is only 10% of winning with food. And I'll be really honest with you. This is where you start talking about fitness competitions or other athletic competitions where you need that 1% edge. or that 2% edge, because that's all this is going to give you, is just a notch above, okay? Because if you do these things well, you are winning. You are happy, you are satisfied, you are where you want to be, you are feeling good, you are looking good, you are strong, your goals are being achieved, especially in this level. Right here, you're working on them. At the varsity level, you're doing it, okay? So this is things like supplements, food timing, carb cycling, okay? I cannot tell you how many emails I get where a client is not doing this well at all and they want to talk to me about carb cycling. You guys, think about that. You're not making good choices with food, or you're just starting to be mindful. You're not doing this well. So you have your numbers and you're not making good choices with food. Your consistency's okay? Sometimes you plan, sometimes you don't, and you know what your behaviors are, but you make no effort to change it. And then you want to talk to me about what supplements you can take. Here's the truth. You can take a fat burner. It's not going to do much for you if you're not handling your food. You can take BCAAs, but if you're not eating the appropriate amount of food, it will do nothing for you. You can take all kinds of creatine and all kinds of things like that, but you're wasting your money if you are not handling the JV responsibilities and the varsity responsibilities. It makes no sense for me to carb cycle you if you're not consistent in hitting your carbs without carb cycling you. There's no point. I'm carb cycling one person right now, and that's because her workout regimen when she works out is insane. It's like 3 hours of hard labor because she's training up north in Flagstaff to become a firefighter. And so she needs that fuel. But guess what? Her goal is not weight loss. Her goal is not weight loss. So I can feed her an insane amount of food and carb cycle her on her workout days to sustain that workout because her goal is not fat loss. Okay? So there is a time and a place to do carb cycling. It's not in a fat loss. There is zero research that will tell you you've got the leg up on fat loss with carb cycling. As a matter of fact, what it does is it creates a bad behavior with food and working out, because you only work out because you want more food, and then you go and work out on days that you're hurt or days that you're sick, okay? Food timing. This is not important if you are handling this. Now, if you're a bikini competitor, sure, food timing is going to be important, because when we cut you down to bare bone minimums, you're going to have to time your food for your workouts, okay? If you are a CrossFit competitor, yeah, we're going to backload you and time your food for that competition. But for everyday tracker, until you have an event, if you do this well, you are on the varsity squad and you are winning, okay? If you are on the JV squad and you have varsity goals, like you're on the JV squad and you want to go win a state championship and have a ring, then you've got to pick up your game on the JV level and make it to varsity so that you can compete for that state championship ring, okay? If your goal is at the varsity level and you are behaving like a JV squad player, your goals and your actions do not match. And there's nothing I can do to match them. So you either need to adjust your goal or adjust your behavior. Does that make sense? Okay, so the goal, if you are a freshman and you want to be a JV player, the goal, if you are a JV player and you want to be a varsity player, the goal, if you want to be a collegiate player and you are at the varsity level, is every single day be better. Okay? Today better than yesterday, and tomorrow better than today. Okay? Does that make sense to you guys? I know this is a lot of information. I know I came out you fired up, and it's because I passionately feel like if you succeed here, you can make it to here, and you can own your goals. Okay? We want to make sure we don't stay at the freshman level. Okay? All right, I'm going to come over here. I'm going to look at my camera. Do you guys have any questions? Let me see. I see Casey. Okay, hang on. Let me go to the top. Let's see. It's asking me if I want to bring you guys on as a guest. Does anybody want to come on and ask their question as a guest? Have you guys done that? I did that with Kelly. It was super cool. Let me see. Casey has a question. What is the difference in eating more fat and less carbs if the calorie intake equals the same? Oh, that's a good question. Oh, shoot. Sorry. I didn't mean to bump the camera. Okay. What is the difference in eating more fat and less carbs if the calorie intake equals the same? Here's the difference. Your body metabolizes fat completely different for different functions than it metabolizes carbohydrates. Okay? Does that make sense? So, our bodies store fat much more rapidly and for a reason. Fat has different jobs that it is supposed to do inside the internal systems, and I could get into that with you guys. Let me show you. I did get into that for a while in this book, and I spent a lot of time, if you guys see all of my tabs, learning what functions the body does for different purposes and reasons. Okay, so you have multiple internal systems. Protein is the catalyst for different metabolic processes in your body. Carbohydrates do different things in your system when you eat them. So if we try to swap out, it's called a energy swap. If we try to swap out fat for carbohydrates, then you're going to have a different effect internally than you would if you left them alone. I will give you an example. When people go to ketosis, they swap their carbohydrate energy, right, ATP production and process, for fat. Therefore, their body has to switch, and this is not to the extreme that you're talking about. You're talking a few grams. I'm just giving you the bigger picture. Their body switches from using glucose as energy, as brain fuel, to fat. So now your body has to switch to ketones and get its energy from ketones and switch entirely how your body uses energy and produces energy. So they are not one and the same. Although calorically we can make them the same, and maybe for a day, okay, fine, not a big deal. But your body thrives on consistency, and your body will store fat differently than it will a carbohydrate and differently than it will a protein because it uses it for different functions in the internal system. I hope that helped. If it didn't, email me and I will create a better response or one that makes a little more sense. Give me a thumbs up, Casey, if that made some sense to you. Okay. Let me see if there's anybody else that has a question. That was a really good question, Casey. Thank you for asking it. Anybody else? All right, I don't see any other questions. I hope that this lesson was helpful for you guys. I see that there's 8 of you on here, which is awesome. I know, oopsie daisy. I know it's the middle of the day and that makes it a little bit difficult, but I hope that that was helpful. Just want to make sure that nobody else had a question. Let's see, Stacy. Oh, puppies. Okay, I don't see any other questions. Let me know if you guys have them. Go ahead and post them underneath here and I will make sure that I answer them. And have an awesome day. I'll chat with you guys soon. Bye.